And I wanted to pop on because I have a contrary view of the MAGA civil war we're seeing. Yes, it is wonderful to watch Tucker Carlson and Ted Cruz have a dick slapping fight. That was pure magic. It was pure magic. It's great to see Laura Loomer out pretending she's the Madame Defarge of the MAGA movement, pretending to take names, and I'm going to screenshot any critique of Trump. It's great to watch Alex Jones completely fucking melt down on live TV or live streaming, whatever. Um, but there's a lot of speculation. Oh, this is going to divide MAGA forever. It's going to cause a rift that can't be healed inside of MAGA. Guys, I got to tell you something. I've been to this rodeo a bunch. I've been to this a lot of times. A decade ago, he was shitting on John McCain, and I thought, and so did everyone else, oh, there's no way his base will stick with him now. That's horrifying. Why would he do that? That's amazingly shitty. Why would he say things like that? And the fact is, at the end of the day, they always bend themselves to Trump's will. So you will see some people who are grumpy right now who say we shouldn't be involved in forever wars in the Middle East. But here's the thing, folks. The entire forever wars thing for Trump was never about the Middle East. It was never about anything except Ukraine. That was a framework of an excuse for him to never help Ukraine, to side with Putin, to stick with Daddy Vladdy all the way down. And because of that, people have believed that there was a huge proportion of his base that were drawn to the no more forever wars line, no more wars line. First off, there's almost zero evidence in the polling that was ever the case, or the focus group research, or the voter file research. There's almost zero people who cast their vote for Donald Trump based on the isolationism. It's popular in a faction of the MAGA movement, the Bannonite strain of the MAGA movement, the Tuckerite strain of the MAGA movement. But remember, for them, the isolationism is only about not constraining Russia. They believe in a world divided into three cooperating zones of autocratic power. Putin gets Europe, China gets Asia, Trump gets Greenland and North America. Africa's a jump ball. Who knows about South America? All of those ideas, though, inside the no new wars, inside the no new interventions, inside the why are we in Ukraine part of the MAGA faction, it's only ever been about Trump getting out of Russia's way to kill Ukrainians. So there's a reason right now why there's a division in MAGA. They do not like this. They are uncomfortable with it. But at the end of the day, folks, they voted for a guy they know is a sexual assaulter and a rapist. At the end of the day, they voted for a guy they know is Jeffrey Epstein's running buddy. At the end of the day, they voted for a guy they know is a criminal. At the end of the day, they voted for a guy who ordered a terrorist attack on the U.S. Capitol. At the end of the day, they voted for a guy who believes in the most lurid conspiracy theories. Now, there is a strain in MAGA on this. There's no doubt about that. But it's in the elite MAGA world, not in the base. At the end of the day, the base will contort itself into whatever is required, whatever obedience is needed. Renee and I were talking this morning. She's met a woman yesterday who said the subject of the asbestos unbanning came up, and it's like, oh well, they must be doing this just to, they must have a reason. Obviously, Trump has a reason. Unbanning asbestos, but this is kind of a political toxicity in MAGA. The strain at the top is because these people are all competing to be in Trump's influence zone. Laura Loomer, Jack Posobiec, Alex Jones, Tucker, all these people. They'll all play these games of purity checking and shit checking. And they think this is a lever where they can convince Trump that the base wants X. And Trump is responsive sometimes to the base wants X, but he also knows that the base will always conform to what he wants. With my hand to God, I believe this, and I will die on this hill. If Donald Trump came out tomorrow and said, I've determined that eating barbecued baby is the most delicious and patriotic thing you could do, there would be MAGA people tomorrow who would say, like, well, Obama was such a cuck, he'd never eat a baby. Biden would never eat a baby because he's just not a real man, not an alpha like Donald Trump. But in elite MAGA, there is a belief, this isolationism, neo-isolationism belief, and we know that isolationism is a much like tariffs, is a historically failed policy. There is a belief that Trump's vision, which is inspired somewhat by Alexander Dugin and some other idiots, um, will always prevail. That his vision of let Putin have Europe, let Xi have Asia, and let me have everything else, that even that elite MAGA world knows it won't be bloodless. Now, there are people around Trump right now who are more hawkish on Iran. Marco Rubio has always been one of those. I'm curious why he's been so quiet. He's trying to keep himself off the objector screen. Mark Levin is suddenly now like very much up in Trump's universe in the White House, or at least in the White House communications universe. And Lindsey Graham and other hawks about Iran are definitely all playing a game of trying to influence Trump. They're trying to get into Trump's head on achieving their ends. This is something I think that you should consider when if you try to predict that this is going to shatter the Trump base. I don't think it will. They are more obedient to Trump than any other thing. The cult leader can tell them, drink my bathwater and it tastes delicious, and they'll do it. So I love watching it. It's delicious. It's delightful to watch. Okay. It is wonderful to see. And they will make they'll do a lot of backstabbing. There'll be a lot of tension, but it won't change the red hat guy out in the Ford F-150 driving around with his knockoff Costa sunglasses on. It might, something else that might change that. There is a bigger division happening, and it is these ag guys and these construction guys who are having their businesses destroyed by Trump and by Stephen Miller arresting all their workers. I know we don't want to admit it, but a meaningful fraction of our hard labor force in this country, the people who do stoop labor picking your vegetables, the people who put shingles on your house, a lot of them are not here legally. And this country's kind of worked around that for a long time, and we should have made an arrangement about it. We could have fixed it back during the whole Gang of Eight thing, but that was one of the things that MAGA, in its proto form before Trump took office in 2016, they viewed that as a way to separate off working class voters from the Democrats, and they were not wrong. They succeeded with that. It worked. It absolutely worked. But I do think now there's economic damage being done to these folks, where Trump briefly recognized it last week, where he said, "Oh, well, we'll let the good ones who their employers like stay," and to stop that. But President Miller always governs America, MAGA. President Miller decided to undo President Trump's order within hours. There's a role about the MAGA base that is almost mythic now, is that Trump has some deep psychic connection to them, that he knows what they want, and they know what he wants, and they can always work around it mentally. They're right about the last part. The base will always adjust itself to what Trump is doing. The base goes back and forth. He loves Elon. He hates Elon. He loves Elon. He hates Elon. And they love Elon or hate Elon. He has transformed what used to be a Republican base that believed in American strength and power in the world based on diplomacy and soft power and hard power and a combination of economic strength and everything else and alliances. He turned his base to hate those things. And I assure you, if Joe Biden or Barack Obama had said the same things about our allies that Trump has said, MAGA would be in the streets with pitchforks and torches. So don't ever think that they're going to like suddenly have a revelation and go, "Oh my God, I can't believe that we were so wrong about isolationism." They will always mentally adjust. Now, again, the elites in MAGA, and by the elites, elite and MAGA, it's a funny kind of space to think about, but we're not playing my song yet, folks. Got a few more minutes. How do they shut Musk up? They threatened him. They threatened to fucking deport him. He's here illegally. Elon Musk is in the country. He's a citizen now, but he was here illegally. And believe me, DHS is deporting people who have been in the same exact circumstance Elon Musk was. They also threatened to cut off Starlink and SpaceX contracts and blah blah blah. Now that would have hurt the government as much as it hurt Elon, but he blinked. Not a good poker player. We have, though, to get back on the subject for a second, we have this moment, and I want to tell you. Let me take a quick aside on Iran. There's zero constituency in this world for Iran wanting nuclear weapons outside of the IGRC. And I have held for 30 years, Iran having nuclear weapons is a bad outcome, bad idea, not good, not bueno. There's a limited club of nuclear weapon states in the world. There's only one of them that's irresponsible, and that's North Korea. And North Korea is constrained by so many different aspects of poverty and Chinese control and everything else that while they are dangerous, while their systems and weapons are dangerous, it's a tight, tiny target. Game ends very quickly if that happens. Pyongyang becomes a shimmering pool of radioactive glass. And it might even be the Chinese that did it because they don't like their client states to get uppity. But with Iran, you have a sort of medieval theocracy that hates women, hates gays, hates intellectuals, hates educated people. Sounds kind of familiar. And is known to use proxies across the region in their ambitions to become a regional, let's call it a regional superpower in the Mideast. If Iran ever gets to the point where it has an operating nuclear weapon, the Saudis will buy a dozen of them from Pakistan. And believe me, the Saudis will pay, $1 trillion will change a lot of minds. Or they'll build their own program quickly. You will also see many, many other countries understand suddenly that the crazy kids in the neighborhood who've been willing to fund the Houthis and Hezbollah and Hamas and a whole spectrum of bad actors, and they hand over weapons to these people all the time. It's not impossible that if they got one, they give it to one of their allies and say, go take care of Tel Aviv. It's not a pretty scenario. There are a lot of very bad outcomes. So I don't think Iran should have a nuclear weapon. And I don't think Iran should have a theocratic medieval government that is abusive to every human right imaginable. However, at this point, I don't know that you're going to achieve regime change. And having been to this rodeo now a couple of times, it's never as easy as we think. It's never as easy to just bounce the rubble and say, "Hey, welcome to America. You're a new democracy. Hello." And I say that as a guy who, again, have been to this rodeo a couple of times, folks. We have a state in peril right now. The Iranians Khamenei today has turned over a meaningful fraction of his powers to the IGRC, which is the most radical friend of the Iranian political and military space. They have continued their attacks on Israel. Israel's returning the favor. But there's one place, one facility, their deepest underground nuclear facility where they're processing their fissile materials that can't be reached by Israeli weapons. So the question now is, why is Trump trying to do this? It all comes down to the Bibi Netanyahu manipulating Donald Trump like a moog. Because he did. He has played Trump so perfectly. Oh, I'm getting all the credit, Donald. I'm strong, Donald. I'm the leader, Donald. And so Trump is going to, and has moved, a vast infrastructure over to the Middle East of tankers, of electronic warfare support, of fighters, of bombers that wouldn't be tasked for the Fordow raid. We've got B-2s on Guam. We've got B-2s on Diego Garcia. It's a long ride up there, but that's why all the tankers are there. And the question is, if we expend our extremely limited inventory of massive ordnance penetrator bombs against this target, do we knock out their program? We might. We might not. It's a crapshoot. But Trump is just doing this because he wants the spotlight. He wants the attention. He wants the power of being able to say, I'm the strong man. He's not interested in the deal. He's been manipulated into this by Bibi and a few people around him that are very pro Bibi. Um, Grant Williams, this is like Periscope. Yes, my friend, it is, and I like it. Um, Folks, if you're new to the to this whole world of streaming stuff like this, Twitter at one point in the good old days had a beautiful function called Periscope, and I would do fairly long conversations like these, and it was great fun. I'm liking this. Um, but look, my concern right now is that we don't understand where the Iranian regime is. We don't understand what they have left in the pocket. We don't understand in the slightest the scope of their enrichment program beyond where Fort Out is. We don't know. We've never been underground there that I'm aware of, and I don't think that we're I don't think that we're in the most solid position to know that American aircraft, very valuable crews and aircraft that get sent to do this mission, um, while the Israelis have their superiority over the region, these things are always dangerous operations, and and launching a military effort for Donald Trump's vanity, which is what this is not about constraining Iran's nuclear weapons program. When the JCPOA was put out there, I was very, very skeptical. I did not believe it would work. I was wrong. JCPOA kept them from developing more fissile material for 5 years. It stopped their weapons program because it had Barack Obama's name attached to it, and because it had Macron's name attached to it, or another world leader's names attached to it. Trump had to kill it, and he did. Then Iran started the machinery up again. Look, this is not the first time we've tried to kill off their nuclear program. Go back to Stuxnet for those of you who remember the glory days of the internet. Stuxnet was a software hack that destroyed a lot of their centrifuges. And to produce fissile material, you need a centrifuge. It's a long, complicated electrochemical process that was started in the U.S. back in 1942 in Oak Ridge, Tennessee, at the Y12 plant, where they were learning the chemically and mechanically difficult process of refining this stuff. We knocked out a whole bunch of their centrifuges back in the early aughts. I guess it was the early aughts. Maybe it was the late 90s. Anyway, it's been a long time. I got a lot of mileage. But we and the Israelis have been doing things against their program for a long time. The Israelis have decapitated the program's scientific leadership. But again, these are engineering problems that are amenable to nations that have a basic understanding of electronics, fairly sophisticated manufacturing techniques. Anybody can build the weapons. It's the fissile material that's the hard part. I mean, believe me, if I said to any contractor in Japan or Taiwan or Iran, which there's a lot of technically sophisticated people, design for me a nuclear weapon. These are explicable things. They know how to do this stuff. Everybody does. It's the fissile material that makes it go, and it's the delivery systems that make it dangerous. So as we go through this whole problem, I've got to wonder. Pam, she says, my parents met the Manhattan Project in Oak Ridge. My grandfather was at the Manhattan Project in Oak Ridge. So, and there's pictures of my mother. They lived in the log cabins at Oak Ridge, and there's pictures of my mother as a baby toddler at Oak Ridge. Anyway, so this idea that this eliminates their program, I got to tell you, I think it's kind of an article of faith inside the IGRC that Iran needs nuclear weapons because, ironically, they learned a lesson from Ukraine. At the end of the Cold War, Ukraine was the territory of the former Soviet Union that held a lot of nuclear weapons, and they gave them up for a permanent peace treaty with Russia. How'd that work out? Not so great. So Iran, they want it. They believe it's their insurance policy in the region. They believe they can deter America and Israel and Saudi Arabia and the rest of the Gulf powers. They believe they can intimidate. And look, I think at this point, if they had a nuclear weapon, we would have seen something very bad happen over an Israeli city. We should be very grateful they do not. We should be grateful for JCPOA that it held it off this long and that it kept it from being this crazy. So the problem for MAGA is this. Okay, we go out, we bomb Fordow, we bomb the shit out of Fordow. We dig it out, we scoop out the earth with every mop we've got in the inventory. And I don't think it's that many in the inventory, folks, honestly. They're really, really tough to build and they're really expensive as shit. I don't think we got enough of them in the inventory to casually burn 100 of them, let's say. But that idea, okay, we knock out Fordow. We knock out the rest of the leadership. We whack the IGRC guys who aren't hiding in an underground bunker. What happens next? You think the mullahs are going to walk away from their control of this country they've had for 43 years? Get out of your mind. They're going to fight tooth and nail. This will make Iraq look like a picnic. And the problem for Trump is, okay, we drop the bombs and go away, and the chaos increases. The Middle East gets more dangerous. They close the Strait of Hormuz. Well, hey, guys, at that point, welcome to $12 a gallon gas. There's a lot of things that where they get a vote. And look, I don't want Iran to have a nuclear weapon. I don't want Iran to be governed by a bunch of crazy theocrats. I know a lot of Persian folks. I know a lot of Iranian folks over the years, and they're amazing people, and they're heartbroken about what their country has become because they really were on the precipice of being an educated and sophisticated Western-ish country in the Middle East. Corrupt, sure, but not what they are now, which is a medieval theocracy that has spent trillions of dollars of their oil wealth supporting terrorists around the world, mostly in the region, but around the world, and building a nuclear program. Be a much better place. But here's the thing, just dropping the bombs does not solve the problem. There will be boots on the ground if you really have to do regime change. Now, at that point, I do think you end up with some of the folks at the MAGA base going, whoa, hey, chief. But if you just bomb and walk away, all you're doing is deferring this problem and making them more angry about it. It's tough. And the problem for Trump is he's an unsophisticated thinker. He wants to get through this news cycle. He wants to get through this week. He wants to get through this day. He wants to get beyond the embarrassment of No King's Day and the embarrassment of his overreaction and insanity of putting military troops on the streets of Los Angeles. So this is a good distraction for him. But I think we're going to have a really difficult time here. I think he's opened a box now that he's going to be hesitant to close. Here's the other problem. Yes, do we have an op plan and a con plan in the can somewhere to go out and hit Fordow? Sure, of course we do. Have we rehearsed it? Are our troops are our pilots ready? Have they trained on this mission? Have they trained on these targets? Do we have the intelligence we require? Do we feel like we've absolutely got air superiority in the region? Do we become part of that air superiority plan this week? I don't know. I pray for our men and women in uniform who are going to be flying these missions. And look, I wish to God the people of Iran would recognize how badly they've been abused by their own theocratic government. Theocracies really aren't a great thing in the modern era, even though there are some people here that would perfectly love to have a theocracy in this era. But I think we're in a moment where this bombing, which is, I give it a 60%, 70% chance of happening, because now Trump can't back down from it. There's no way the Iranians are going to make a real deal. If they called him and said, we want to talk, it's because they learned from Vladimir Putin, who says, I want to talk while I continue to bomb civilian targets. That ain't how this is going to work, champ. And look, I don't think he's going to be the guy that walks away. I don't think he's going to be the guy that that now backs down from this. It's just his ego is just that particular flavor of toxicity. But we've got a situation here domestically where he's in a lot of trouble, guys. The Fed coming out yesterday saying economic growth is going to be under 2%. Deadly. Deadly. He would like you to be thinking about Iran rather than thinking about the fact that the Fed is saying we're going to go into a recession and that they're not going to lower interest rates because of all the other economic shit that he's done on tariffs and everything else, and the tax bill, all the uncertainty that all of his key programs have built into the economy. So he needs a distraction. He needs this. And it's not a defense of Iran to say that Donald Trump is not the leader America needs right now. He lacks the political and moral and mental acuity to engage in this. He certainly lacks the moral authority to engage in this, but we may be there in a matter of hours or days. It's almost nighttime. Full moon's coming up, I think, at the end of the week. So our new moon end of the week. So that'll be fun. Well, look, again, we started out talking about the MAGA crack up, and I think there's tension. But remember, it's in the elite MAGA sphere, not in the base. The base will always follow Trump. They are HUD-chewing window lickers when it comes to whatever Trump wants. They will always make a mental structure in their heads that says, well, Trump must know better than me because he's the richest man in the world and he's a billionaire and he's my leader and blah, blah, blah. So, folks, they're about to call my name. I'm about to get on a big old jet plane and go home to my beloved. So I will talk to y'all soon. Stay tuned tomorrow for the Friday brief for subscribers of my Substack. For paid subscribers to Substack, get the Friday brief every Friday. It's a summary of what I think are the biggest stories of the week and some observations on those and cat pictures. Yeah, because, cat pictures. And I appreciate everybody listening to the podcasts. And if you could do me the big favor of liking and subscribing on YouTube and also on the Enemies List podcast, the Lincoln Project podcast, and the Elephant in the Room. Elephant in the Room comes out every Friday, and today's is a knockout blow on the masked men on our streets. Anyway, folks, thanks so much, and I will talk to you again next time. See ya.